Hey guys, Augiesaint here and welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and it is the Reactor Components weekly reset today. So we have gone out and tested everything and updated the Bible with all the information you need for this week. We have sensors dropping, processes, and the most notable reactors we have I have noted down over here. The white ones are general rounds, these are special rounds, so Secret Garden on those two, and this is impact round for Lepic. And then Freyna I just found right at the bottom again, and we added her as a general round as well. So without further ado, let's just hop into where to get all of this goodness in game. So first up, we have the sensors dropping in the Agna Desert Mirage Stone. You want to teleport right there, and the mission is called the Commanding Ground. Now it is a barrier deactivation, so it's a pretty easy mission overall, very fast. It's one of our most favorite choices. It's one of our favorite mission types to go do, so just go in there and then kill all the enemies inside the big circle, rinse, repeat. Now sensors are pretty important. The roles I would look for on them is max HP on the top line, and then the bottom two lines you want to get max MP and MP recovery in combat. Those will be your best overall like combat ones. And then obviously you can get a farming one as well with the consumable drop rate increase on there. So make sure you get HP on the top line, as HP is quite a big boost to your defense. And then next up we have the processes dropping in Vesper's Lumberyard, and the mission of choice is the frontline base. It is an extermination mission. We do have the HP collector mod dropping from here as well, and it is a pretty easy mission overall. It's extermination, so again one of our top choices for mission types to farm. Very easy, just go in, kill all the enemies, reset, and do it again. And then the stats you'd be looking for on a processor, again, it'll be max HP or maybe defense on the top line. And the bottom line, you can't really get too much good things on here for combat, but for a farming one, you can get two good rolls with item acquisition distance increase as well as equipment drop rate increase. Both of those are really good for farming. And then for like a defensive one, you just go for max shield and shield regen, or you could go for like max shield and toxic resistance. Totally up to you, but we do have this little graph on the Bible. You can see all the different rolls you can get. And then we have another part of your components reactors. This will break down like the min-max rolls of everything you can get on reactors. We just add a little graphic over here to make it a little bit easier. And then the ones with these lines are the ones that I recommend for like your day-to-day use, not a farming one, just for like a combat one. Max HP fire res, MP on this one, MP recovery there, defense over there, max shield and toxic res is the best defensive stats overall. But like I said, just have a look at those and then have a look at the ranges. What is like the best component that you can get? And now let's move over to reactors for the week. We do have Bunny General Rounds Reactor dropping in the Echo Swamp, Misty Woods, and the mission is the Hazy Swamp. It is an extermination mission. It's a very short mission, but since it is so short, it's quick and easy to repeat. I believe in like a minute you can run through there. And it is dropping General Rounds Reactor for Bunny for the singular build. Obviously we'll be building her around her AoE. The roles that I would go for on the reactor would be increased range as like the main thing that I would always want to get. And then the secondary role after that could be a mix up between maybe crit damage if you want higher like big crit numbers, or electric skill boost damage, or singular power skill boost damage. Skill cost I don't think is all that worth on reactors because it's such a small role. But if you like to run it, then go for it. I just really do recommend getting range, because that little bit of range to max out your range does help quite a bit. You actually gain about 2 meters of range with a maxed out range roll on your reactor. And then we come over to the Gley / Valby reactors. These are general rounds as well. They are dropping in Vespers, the Ruins, and the mission of choice is the Ruins Courtyard. This is another extermination mission, making it very easy and quick to complete, as well as it having pretty high chance of dropping vault keys, because there's a lot of champion monsters that actually spawn around here. Those are the guys with the orange health bars. It's not a bad spot overall, especially since it is dropping the Gley Reactor this week. I'm definitely coming out myself, as we still do not have a good Gley Reactor for ourselves. And the roles you'll be looking for on the Gley Reactor, if you are going the Massacre build, you want to be looking for damage to Colossus. Very important, it's a massive damage scaler. And then cooldown reduction. There's no real other stats you could change in or out. Maybe duration versus cooldown reduction. You'd have to play around with your build. But the general Massacre build, and the way I have mine set up, and most people do, you want to go for Colossus damage as well as cooldown. This works perfectly with the build. And then if you're making a infinite ammo Gley build, then you just want to go for cooldown reduction and duration, since you don't need the skill damage to Colossus. Because if you're going the permanent ammo build with Gley, then obviously you're not going to be using your Massacre. You'll just be using her permanent ammo skill. And then for Valby's version, you could go for crit damage, crit chance on your skills, or even range increase, or you could even go for duration cooldown. There's so many different ways you could go for Valby. It really depends on how you're building her. Personally, for my Valby reactor, the way I have her set up, I would go for non-attribute damage as well as either cooldown or duration to get her V skill up more often, or for it to just last a little bit longer. And then we come over to some Blair General Round Reactor as well, dropping in Hagios, the forward base, and the mission we choose is the Broadband Fleet Beacon. Now this says it's a composite mission, but it's actually kind of like a two-part mission. The first part, just kill a bunch of enemies. You got to put in the little battery thing to activate, and then it becomes a barrier deactivation mission. So very easy again. Pretty good mission that drops a lot of enemies. This is definitely one of the more recommended farms. So whenever we do have a good reactor dropping there, I would highly suggest farming it. So if you are looking for a Blair dimensional general rounds reactor, this is the best spot for him this week. And then the roles I would try and go for would be range and then cooldown, or maybe duration, any one of those three, because you'll be using him for like a mobbing build. Well, the way I have my Blair set up, I'm using him as a mobbing build, so increased duration, range, and cooldown is always good. You just got to pick whichever one you can get. Maybe even a fire boost or a dimensional boost as well is not bad overall, just to do a little bit more increased damage. And then moving over to Viessa special rounds reactor dropping this week. So it's a special rounds chill tech reactor, which I use for my cold-blooded build on Viessa, because I definitely do like to use the secret garden on her. This is dropping in the White Knight Gulch, the Moongrave Basin, and the mission we're going to be doing is the water cooling recording device. Now this is a seizure mission, but it is one of the best missions to actually farm again. So the way you actually want to do this is you start up the mission, you go over to point A, and then you run into the little cave as soon as you've activated the point, and some mobs are going to spawn, and you let the ranged mobs actually go to the point and actually stay on the point, and that way you can fully farm out the timer, because the enemies will stay on the point, so it won't actually get the progress up, but you won't fail it until the timer runs out. So you've got a good about 4 minutes to actually sit there and farm. You can run back and forth between the cave and as well outside in the water where the other mobs spawn. You can just run back and forth killing the mobs. In the background you see me kind of like messing up a little bit because I still have my high voltage build max range on my bunny. So if I run past, I'm actually going to kill the mobs on the point. So if you do have a similar bunny setup, just make sure to remove high voltage, or maybe just drop your range down a little bit so you can actually run past pretty freely without killing the mobs on the point. Because if you do kill them on the point, the mission will complete in less than a minute, so you don't really have that much time to farm it out. But if you do it properly and the mobs stay there, you can farm it for like 4 minutes straight, and it just drops a ton of reactors. Really good spot and one of the top farming spots for the week. Next we move over to the Frogerjax Reactor dropping this week. Now this is going to be a special rounds dimension reactor, so it's going to be for the build where I have on my channel about Frogerjax. We use Void Explosion. If you are looking for those, you come over to Augiesaint in the Dune base, and the mission we're going to be doing is the Vulgus Blockade. It's an extermination mission. It's a pretty mid mission overall, but there's not really other better choices in the zone. So if you are trying to get yourself a Frogerjax Reactor, this is the best spot for the week. Go in, and it's a pretty wide area, so you kind of have to like wait for some mobs to spawn. So not the greatest, but it's the only thing we have for him this week. Go there and check it out. And then the roles I'll be going for this would be increased range, because he really needs range. I know I like range on a lot of things, but that increased range does just help a lot, because this is all really used for mobbing builds. So you want to get increased range and then cooldown reduction, or you could go for a non-dimensional or a dimensional damage boost just to help you do a little bit more damage. But you definitely want to make sure you do get the range on the reactor. And then we come over to the Lepic Impact Rounds Reactor. So if you are still trying to find an Impact Rounds Reactor for your Lepic, we are getting Firetech Impact Rounds 1 in Augiesaint at the Starfall Road. And the mission we tried is the Ancient Quantum Facility. Now we went there, and this kind of has like two parts to it. So after you do the first objective, we have to capture one of the little points. I actually suggest restarting the mission at that point and then going from there, because that little area there is much faster than actually doing the whole mission where you go into the cave and you start the second point and you have to take over, and you have to come back and kill a few enemies and stuff, and then a boss spawns after quite a lot of waiting. So if you do the whole mission through, I think it's about 5 minutes or so, but if you just reset on the first point, it's about 1.5 minutes. And the drops seem to be about the same. Well, the drops actually seem to be front loaded, so you got most of the drops in the beginning, because that's where you would be killing most of the mobs. But if you want to complete it out, it's up to you. However, I would suggest just doing the first part, taking over the first point, killing all the enemies until they tell you to go into the cave with all the lasers in it. Then just stop the mission there and restart and try again. And the rolls you want to get on this one is very specific. You want to go for Colossus damage. Whatever roll you can get, you just need Colossus damage. It's such a massive multiplier. And then skill critical hit damage is the next best thing you can get. You can go for maybe like a fire boost or a tech boost, but you'll definitely see better results with going with the skill critical damage build, because you're going to be critting a lot of the time. And as well with the Colossus boost, that all like adds on top of each other, and skill crit damage and Colossus is just by far the strongest options you have on the Lepic Reactor. And then lastly, I thought I'd throw in the Freyna Reactor, because we do have Ultimate Freyna coming up pretty soon. So this is for a general rounds build. I prefer a special rounds build on my Freyna, because I'm going to be building mine around the Secret Garden for the tech boost on the skill power and everything, which last week we did have a good Freyna Reactor farming spot. So if we do get another one coming up next week or the week after before Ultimate Freyna comes out, I'll make sure to let you guys know. But for this week, we have a General Rounds one dropping in the Fortress, in the Aurora Forest, and the best mission to farm out of these two is the Snowy Heights. It's actually pretty bad mission overall, but the other mission option has you escorting one of those shield drones, so by far the Snowy Heights is the best out of the two. It's the lesser of the two evils. It's not that bad, you just have to put in the batteries into the little machine, but what you could do is just fill up the machine maybe to about 50%, and you could just wait out the timer and kill the enemies as they spawn. Because I believe they spawn at about maybe the same rate, so maybe you don't even have to put any batteries in the machine at all. You can just sit there and like farm them out throughout the mission until the mission ends, and then restart it and try again. And the rolls you want to get on this, I actually have zero idea. I have not built up my Freyna yet, as I kind of been waiting for Ultimate Freyna. If I was to guess for like a mobbing build, I'm going to say maybe range, maybe not range, depending on how her skills work. I think she kind of like spreads the poison around. So maybe you don't need range on it, but maybe you want to go for like a toxic boost or a skill crit damage, skill crit. I'm not sure what her crit ends up being. So I actually have no idea what rolls to look for on this. So just try and keep yourself any like decent roll ones you see. If you are trying to farm up or get ready for Freyna, you probably have a little bit of an idea of what you want to get on your reactor. So maybe like toxic boost damage or tech boost damage, any of those, and cooldown and duration could be really good for her. But that's going to be it for this weekly farming video. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you did, please drop a like and a sub to the channel. It helps me out so much, and I'll catch you beautiful people in the next video as well as the streams. Augiesaint out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying